G'day crew, welcome back. I'm Todd from Toxic Garage Customs and you're joining me for another episode of Toxic Garage Customs. So I'm just coming home from having a fantastic day with friends and we've had a great weekend overall. But that's not really what this video is about. However, it would be not right of me not to point out that I just dropped in to see a friend, and by the time I left there he'd given me an old ammo case, a jerry can, pretty cool looking oil can, and a few other odds and sods. So you'll see some of that stuff around in the workshop in the future, but that's not what this video is about. This video is once again about Clive the GMC. We do a bit more, so I'm not going to tell you what the video is about. How about you watch it, see what we've been up to, and like you always, I'll see you at the end. Back on the GMC, on the other cab corner now. Now, as promised, I'm not going to put you through this whole process. You've already seen it if you've seen the previous video. If not, then if you watch it, you'll see. Lots of repairs been done in here. And pretty much everything that you can see has been replaced, little by little. So at the moment, I've cut the cab corner off. It's fitting up very nicely, but I'm not putting it back on for the same reason as the other side. There's still work to do. So want to finish knitting all this together and just finishing off a whole bunch of stuff that we weren't able to get into previously. But also I'm just about to drill the spot welds out of here. The other ones are already busted out. I'm going to drill these ones out because we want to repair the rear inner floor section. So as you can see, it's already cut out through over here. So everything that's been cut out obviously needs to be replaced. There's a few holes here. We'll probably work around good metal and just do the patches. And over here, got to replace this whole piece across the back. So this piece of shiny metal's new. Where the cab mount is existing, and there's some rust there. Possibly break the cab mount loose, replace the floor section, then put the cab mount back on. Got some mark out points here. So those Sharpie marks, and on the back there, so know where it is, and photos. And so I'm going to bust that piece out after taking the spot welds so that we can, so it's very noisy here because it's raining quite heavily on my shed, so that we can fabricate a piece of steel to put in there. So little by little, we'll get it together. I should add that when I've gone through, I've ground the paint off here, and when you grind the paint off, and I should have done it while I was going along, but you can see where the spot welds are. They're little depressions from the spot weld, and you can see there's some paint in this one here. And when you're grinding the surface paint off, they still remain with paint, so they stand out. I've taken it all back, it's still got to be welded anyway, but I'm just going to go through and drill the centre of these out with a small drill bit, and then I'll go through with a larger drill bit. And then when I'm reattaching it, because I'll reuse this back panel, I'll do some repairs across there, but overall it's not too bad. So that when I'm reattaching it, the holes that I've drilled out for the spot welds, I'll just use as plug welds to attach to the new floor section that I'm going to put in. Gone through and drilled those out with just a drill bit. It's actually the same drill bit I use for my Clecos, and I'm being a bit cheeky at the moment. I have this countersink bit, which is usually for timber work to sink a screw down below the surface. I don't actually use this one anymore, so I've got other tools. So I'm using it to see how it's going to go with the spot welds, and it seems to be working okay. So we'll see how we go. So continuing down the theme of not using the right tool for the job, I've decided I'm going to use a couple of old woodwork chisels to bust the seam on the spot welds there. It looks like they're on stage at the moment that perform a stand-up act, but I'll show you. Let's just bang those through and we'll see how they pop off. Well, that was one that hadn't busted, that I hadn't drilled, and it's just ripped it out. The ones I drilled, I think, have come out pretty good. Except for that one. Okay. Wrong tool, wrong job. Separated them. Not perfectly, but the job is somewhat done. Well, it wasn't delicate and wasn't done with much finesse, but I've got that separated through there. Ripped a bit of metal over here. That one I didn't actually realise was attached, so I thought I'd drilled it out, but I hadn't. So yeah, a bit wallowed out. This one I couldn't get to properly because of this bracket. So look, is it perfect? No, I've got it separated. I can weld it back on. It separated it, and that's all that really matters. So it means that I can now do what I was trying to do, and that's move all of this out of the way so I can cut this out. Hopefully I can get the whole piece out without having to attack it more than necessary. As in, I hope it's not spot welded on the back of that or something. I'm hoping I can cut it out here, probably remove some spot welds like this one that was here, and same a bit further, and just remove that piece. So I'm only going to go this far in the first place, and then we'll see what reveals. So that floor section, drilled out the holes. It clearly needs replacing. Had to drill them out pretty big. They wanted to hold tight, but the panel's coming out. I'm just going to cut it off here in the first place, and I'll probably, as I said, remove this, but we'll get to it. Moved across onto the this side again, so American car, so it's the passenger side. Australian car, it'd be the driver's side, whatever. So I've got to replace the floor section across the back there, as I've mentioned. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by templating a piece just to go from here through to here, up to here, and I'll probably include this part down here as well. I don't want to put too many angles in the piece that I'm making. So if I do make it, it may be one piece of metal, maybe two, maybe three. I'll have a look at it as I go. So what I'm thinking is if I make this large piece here, then I've just got to make a slither that goes in across the back there as a separate thing. Again, I'm not going to try and make it out of one sheet. That seems like a complexity level that's unnecessary. So I'm going to template this up. The side that I'm working on, I'm modelling off this side here. Now this side here I don't think is factory. Well, in fact I know it's not, because I put some of that metal in there. And you'll see there's still a couple of little holes that I need to patch. So I'm modelling off this. So I'm using some reference points of using some of this seat belt or fuel tank or whatever it is, I think it's seat belt mount hole, and measuring across to work out where this change of angle happens on the other side and where this change of angle happens, and so on. So I'll take you over that side and show you what I'm talking about. As pointed out a few times, there's really not much to go by. So this line just here, this is the change of angle from this part, so this raised part, it changes angle there, and that's measuring from the seatbelt point across. And then this one here, there's a change in the floor level at a lower level. So I've put those marks there, and what I've done, I've just sticky taped on my ruler here to try to project this line out, because I need to have the floor come from this point just here up to this point just here. So that's where I'm running to. So I'll set my template in place and show you where I'm at. This is the template that I've made so far. It's just part of an office file, a manila folder, and I've cut it out roughly to shape. Now that it's sitting there, it looks more like a floor. So I have a flange bent on the back of the cardboard so that I include that in the metal. And then, as I was saying, there's a point down here where this floor changes angle to just here. So to find that line, I'm going to sit another ruler from there to there, from there to there, and I'm simply going to draw that line, and then I know that that is where the change of direction in that metal goes. And so when I cut it here, then it's going to angle down to join in with the other parts of the floor that are not existent, that it'll pick up this angle here, which is a continuation of this angle. I'll do that and show you what I've come up with. Some art and craft time later, we've got something that resembles a template. They've got the large piece at the back here, so it follows profile up there and then comes along. And as I said, there'll be an extension off here. And then this piece here, it continues off that face there and comes through. I'm not going to cut it, the steel to this exactly at the moment. I'll make this piece first, the large piece, and then I'll work this piece in afterwards. But it has the various bends required to get around the corner here, and then this one does also. So this piece here will be a sheet of metal that long. I will cut it out to this shape, and then I will fold it through there, and the fold doesn't continue through here, so that'll be interesting, but I'll work it out. Got my sheet of 18 gauge, or in metric, that is about 1.12 millimeters thick. This is cold rolled steel, so it doesn't have any zinc coating on it or anything. Got a little bit of surface rust from sitting around, but that's fine. So I've got my template here, so this is the main one. So I have the flange on the back that goes down, that will be spot welded to the back of the cab, and then the part that comes down towards the door, and the part that continues across to the middle of the car. So now that I've got it out, I'm going to lay it on this nice square factory edge. So I've got straight lines I'm working to. Wait for that motorbike to go past. I'm going to lay that down, and I'm going to draw around it. Now I'm actually going to push it out a little bit further in each direction, because I don't mind if the flange down the back there becomes a little bit longer. Actually, that isn't a factory edge. This is a factory edge. That one isn't a factory edge. So I'm just going to push that out so I get a little bit of a longer flange through there and a little bit of extra length, and I'll come through here as well. These parts I'll keep the same, because what I can do, I can trim down this end, I can trim down this end, and I can trim down that if I need to, but these are pretty much the right shape, I believe. So rather than run short, I'll run long, and I can either replace more steel in the floor, or I can just trim this off. So I'm just going to hold that down there and mark it out. Now, just an aside, one thing that I do when I set my workshop up is I try and make it so that all of my benches are the same height. So I've got, you can't really see many from here, but I've got benches throughout my workshop, and they're all the same height. They're all 900 millimeters high. And the reason I do that is that if I move two benches next to each other, then they all line up. And what I have this on at the moment is just a panel stand, and conveniently it works in at the same height. It's just a little bit of a tip. I just find it easier. So if you do need to lay something like this, or a long piece of round hollow section, or whatever, square hollow section, then you can line them up from one to the other and use it as a large bench rather than a short bench. Just a tip. Wherever possible, I'll work with straight lines and 90-degree corners. Incidentally, any magnet that you have is useful. So old speaker magnets, whatever. So it just holds things in place. So I've just used my metal rule here, and I scribed a line. I didn't use a Sharpie marker because, as I've said before, I've got a habit of doing that, and then the paint comes through. So I've just scribed that line through there. And then at the end here, I just got a square, and from this edge just here, I've just come up with a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to just cut that basic shape out with the angle grinder, and then I'll trim it up. One other thing is that I buy a full sheet of metal, so it's 2.4 meters long by 1.2, so what's that, about 8 foot by 4 foot, I think. It lasts for quite a long time. You get a lot of replacement rust sections and so on out of a sheet like this. So this is only half a sheet. So yeah, it's worth buying a large sheet if you're going to be doing a bit of work, and just cut it down. Okay, cockatoos in the background, that's okay. So I got that metal, cut it to shape and size, and I'll explain what all these parts are in a moment. But I cleaned it up. Now, the whole thing wasn't surface rusted, but I've cleaned it up because it's much easier to do it while it's still a flat sheet of metal. Because once I fold it and get all the contours there, then it's harder to sand it. So I might as well do it now. Because I am going to be putting some form of paint on this, so paint will want some sort of tooth or key to be able to stick to, so a little bit of texture there. If it's too smooth, it won't stick properly, so it doesn't hurt to do it now. So my template comes on here like this, and as mentioned earlier, I've concentrated on getting this shape right. This here I put in no fold, so it's going to fold through this line here from this. So I've just put this cut in it here so that when it does fold and all comes together, then it will be able to do that. It'll be able to do that. Slightly wider lens there. So I've just gone through also and scribed a line through here. So that's where the flange needs to fold. And I'm just about to scribe a line from this point through to this point here, which is where the whole sheet is going to fold. Now it says here no fold, but what I'm going to do is that when I fold this in my brake, I'm going to fold the whole thing, because that's going to be easier to do, I think, and then I'll just straighten this piece back out again. Ah, wildlife, eh? Gotta love it. There's birds going absolutely crazy in the background. It's just been raining, and they just seem to thrive on it. I'm going to scribe this all the way through because I'm not sure. I have to have a look. I may need to transfer this mark to the other side for when I put it in my brake. Okay, so this here, this part needs to go down. So I need to put it in my brake that way, which means I need to be able to see lines. So I'm going to transfer the lines over to this side so I can see that. Something that I've shown before is to grab some metal shears or some whiz shears. Again, my good friend Nick made sure that I show this and use this technique. So just putting a nick for Nick on that side and one there, and that is the exact point of my scribed line. And now I have those points on this side. Now I can either scribe a line through, or I can just put it in my brake and see those. I'm going to scribe it because I like to be able to line up the lines anyway, but all going well. Those lines should line up, and it should touch the tip of this because that is my fold point. Okay, I have some lines there, and same through here. Just got to put a little nick in it here. I overcut that a little bit, but that's okay. And I don't need to mark that side because I can already see it where the triangle is. So I'm just going to come from that little nick that I put in through to the tip here. Actually don't even know if I need to transfer it to this side, but hey, I'm on a roll now. Just got to make sure I bend the steel the right way is the main thing. Okay, so I've got marks transferred. So I'm going to carry my template with me over to my brake so that when I look at it, I know it's the right way. So they both need to go that way. So they both need to be on the opposite side of the metal, like I've just done it. Okay, let's go to the brake. Okay, that brake was brought to you by Toxic Garage Customs. So what we have here, need to fold down. So what that means is I need to put my metal in the brake this way. I'll just flatten that out a bit. this claw hammer. First thing I found. Okay, so I'm going to put this in where it needs to be. Tighten it up and fold it. Now that flange at the back is a 90-degree flange, so I'll go full bend. This poor little brake. It's not designed for 1.12 radar gauge. It's designed for a bit thinner. That's alright, does the job. Use the international to stop it moving. Looks good. Now the other bend, the one through here, I'm not going to be able to do. I don't think, I'm sure. I'm not going to be able to do it in the brake. Let's have a look at that first. Looks okay. Pretty happy with that. So the bend through here, I'm not going to be able to do it in the brake. I don't think. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I'm going to do that in the vise. Just before I go to the vise and bend this part here, I need to work out the angle. So I'm just going to use this thing, it's called a sliding bevel. Just going to sit that there like that, and then I'll tighten the wing nut up, and once I do that, then I'll have the angle that I need. Now I'm just going to do that with two hands, so I'll do that off camera, but that's the idea. Nothing at all complicated about that, just got the angle. So that's the angle that I need to bend my sheet metal to. Now if you watch me often, then you will have seen me use my vise as a brake before. And when I say brake, just a sheet metal bender. So I'm just going to put two pieces of angle iron in there, and I'll line them up in a moment. And I need to bend, let's move this camera. I need to bend this that away. So I need to put it in here. I'm going to drop it down to my line. And I'll get these pieces of angle right at the same length as each other. With the line down. Right the way through. Now just tighten up a bit and adjust it. Get an adjusting tool. Now I've got a piece of angle at the front and a piece of angle at the back. The one at the back is what I bend it over, and the one at the front is just to control the bend so that it doesn't all pucker and get all distorted on the opposite side. So just lining up to my scribed marks, make sure that both of my pieces are angle in the right place. And at this point, it's helpful to have the line on the back that I scribed before, because I can see that my angle is perfectly lined up with the front and perfectly lined up with the back. Now this, if I hadn't cut that, when I go to bend this, the metal would just pucker there and it'd give resistance and it'd all twist and everything. Let's have a look at this from the front. And this is what you see from the front. So there's just the angle iron. If you look carefully, you'll see the scribed line behind there. It's exactly the same on the back. And what I can now do is bend my steel across the angle iron. I'm doing this just by pushing it at the moment. I'm going to put the camera down in a moment and do this by with two hands so that I don't get a funny little fold. If I wanted to, I could tap it with a hammer along the bottom, or even a piece of timber. A piece of timber tends to be more gentle and not put dents. it's folded nicely here. It's a little bit off line here, so I'm just going to use a hammer to bring it back in line. Luckily it's only the floor, so if it does get a dent or something, it's not the end of the world, but I'd like to avoid that. Now, the bend isn't very much in this, so I think I've probably gone close to it, if not too far. Yep, gone a little bit too far, that's okay. I'm going to just bring it back. And it's a little bit hard to set the sliding bevel there with the angle line there, so I'm just going to move the angle line across a little bit out of my way. Still maintaining the same line. Just so I can put my bevel on. I'll show you from the side. Now what you're going to see is that I've bent it too far. So you can see the angle on the bevel is what I want, but I've bent it too far, so I'm just going to bend it back. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. The evidence will be once it's in the car. Now I could have worked it out to get this so that it contacted perfectly and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day it doesn't matter. It's got to be spot welded to the back of the cab in both places, so this triangle not being there really doesn't matter. Let's see how it looks in the car. Just before I check it in the car, put it back on the template here. See how it looks. Okay, so obviously go for through there between you. A bit longer, same length there. Actually, it should be a little bit longer. No, same length. So it all looks good. Now, what I do need to do is just bend this up because it needs to continue through that line. So I'll just bend that so it's on the same plane as the piece beside it. Piece here. Might need to do that with a hammer. Just kink it a little bit. I'll adjust that in the car, but that pretty much looks like that, I believe. So let's see how she goes. I'll just leave my temporary shape makers rulers in at the moment, just in case I need to adjust something. So let's see if this is going to fit. Okay, so I've made it a little bit long through here, so it's interfering with the floor there at the moment, but overall it looks okay. It's sitting up too high at the back, and that's mainly because of that corner. So I think the solution there is to, in the first place, maybe just cut that corner off. Maybe not that far. I'll get some nips and do that. I just needed to take a little slither off here. It was a little bit wide. It looks like it's too narrow now, but it's not. It's just the angle that you're seeing it from. So it's sitting well. So it's sitting nicely on top of the ruler here, right to this point here, coming through, allowing me to continue a patch through there. So I've just got to now go through and make the rest of the piece to pop over there, and it will all be good. So it seems to work very well. I'm happy enough with the fitment of that. So I've got this cardboard template here for the next piece. I will once again cut it slightly larger than it needs to be so that I can trim it up. It worked for me last time, so why change it? So yeah, that'll come along on there like that. That piece is sitting there. once I go to put it in, I'll need to just tweak it a little bit just to hold it in place. But once again, it's the floor and it's under the fuel tank, so it's not like it's going to be in eye shot. But overall, for one go, one trim, I've got to be happy with that. So I'll go and cut this piece out, and we might start trying to tack this thing together as one piece and then cut it into the floor. So you saw me set this one out all in speed hyperlapse. So this is it here, and how it's going to fit. And I did have to make another minor trim to this back piece, and after I took the camera off, I've trimmed a piece off this as well. So again, this little piece here will be built later, but what we have here is that will come together eventually. This part up here will be okay. I'll need to put a little back piece in here, and then this will come along here. It's all sitting a little bit funny at the moment, but part of the reason for that is that this section of floor's not right. It's been fiddled around with and bent and so on. So I'm going to put the new piece, the new patch is going to go right the way down to here. So I'm going to cut all that off, because at the moment there's a bit of a bulge out through this area here, and it is preventing this from sitting in properly. But once I cut that other steel out, I'll be able to push this back, get it all to line up. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to weld this. I might just tack it in the first place. I'm going to weld this on the bench, so all through here, across here, and then this piece just here, I'll weld onto there as well. So the patch that I'm making will end up being this size and shape, so that I can just remove all of this stuff. I didn't intentionally make this piece shorter. I probably could have made it longer in hindsight, but I didn't. But that's okay. We have a welder, we have steel, we can join it all together. Righto, just a few quick tack welds there. Had to cut one loose because it was in the wrong spot, but that's okay. So I might put another one on here just in a minute. I forgot to turn the gas on in the first place, so this one's a bit boogered. But you can see it's come together. This part here I've just got to adjust. Got this through here, and I've got to make a little piece to go in there, and a little piece to go in there, but that's okay. It's already got heaps of strength, considering how little it's held together with. So I'm just going to quickly adjust this, and then we'll fit it into the truck. With this part here, I was going to put a little triangle in there and a little triangle in there, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just bend this piece here out. It'll probably fall a little bit short, but I'm just going to hit it across to try and get it into the right spot, and then we can just tack it in place. It'll be a little bit of a transition rather than little triangles. So I'll just shape it a little bit more. Where are we? Let's zoom out a bit. I'll just shape it a little bit more but I'm just going to fill this and fill this. So I'll just bang that into shape a bit. So I've just hit some shape into it, and I'm just going to tack weld it here and up here, and then I'll hit these a bit with a hammer just to bring the shape together a bit. Bit of a wider joint there, but it'll feel okay. So by just tacking it here and here, it'll hold it in place. Also put a little bit of heat into it, which will just make it a little more malleable. So that shape's come together quite well. Once I get it into the car, I'm going to have to just sort of push it, bend it, make it fit into the floor section a bit better. But the next thing I need to do is put it in place, and then I'm going to have to cut the floor to suit this line here rather than the other way around. This is better than the floor. I'm not completely ready to weld this yet. I don't want to go locking it in and then have to undo it, because I still want to put some paint in underneath and all that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do is clamp and cleco this in various places just to hold it in place, and I will go through and trim the floor to make it fit. And then when I'm doing the next things, I can fit it all together with the confidence that it's not going to be changing position, and it'll be good. So let's just have a look. This is what we've got here, and this is what we've got here. I don't know where you can see that. So quite similar. And that's all that's really important, I think. Just trying to make two look like they belong together. Clecoed in place. I've gone around and with a Sharpie marker I've marked around the perimeter of where it sits so that I can have a look at what metal is behind there. I'm probably going to just cut right along the edge of this, or I might do a cut and butt where I cut part of this off and cut part of the other off and join the two together with weld along the way. I've just drawn this shape on here. There's this little depression in this replacement floor pan corner, which isn't on that one because we didn't know it existed because we didn't have anything to work with. So with this side, I'm going to, I'll probably just beat this shape in here just with some basic panel beating tools and sandbag and so on, just to get it to blend down into this. It'll blend in fine, it'll look good enough. So it's just getting really windy outside. So, and what I do intend to do is, once I'm satisfied with the fit up of this, cut this out and so on, I'm going to cleco it in as many places as I can, and I'm going to weld this piece that I've made together. I'm not going to weld it to the floor, but I'm going to weld it together so that it conforms, if it distorts, warps, twists or whatever, it conforms to the shape of the floor that I'm working with. So I can take it out, do whatever work I need, come back and put it back in. And obviously I've still got to make a piece for here. And I've still got to make a piece for across the back. And some rust spots. A few jobs to do. Now that I've removed it by taking the clecos out, we can see it overlaps a little bit here. so I can cut back one or the other or both to join that. You can see this lower line through here. These are my set out lines from before. So down through here, so I'm going to cut right down the bottom of my replacement panel, get rid of all this gear, and it comes out here and up here. So I think that's actually there's a step down, a depression there. My panel comes through to here, so I think I am going to cut it straight through here. I think, yeah, I might cut it through there, and that way I can investigate, see if there's any rust under there. The further I go, the more I can investigate. So we'll see. I might change my mind. We'll come through here, and then it comes across over to there. So that all looks good, and then obviously I'll make a piece that comes off there later. So I might start trimming some of this stuff away. Might just come down just above that line in the first place. So if I can get a closer fitment, and I'll take the bulk of this stuff out back to here somewhere. So that's all stitched away. I didn't do spots, I ran beads, as you can see. It's the 0.6 wire. Now you can see there's a fair bit of heat penetration gone in there. I'm not concerned whether it distorts a little bit. I've got it clecoed in place, so as I said, any heat will transfer through the metal. It'll help conform to the shape of where it's clecoed down to anyway. So I'm going to leave it clecoed in place so that it cools down in the same place that I've just welded it. And my logic is that when I unclip it, it should be the perfect shape and size for where it was clecoed. Time will tell. I will let you know if it goes pear-shaped. But that's going to be enough for me tonight. It's pretty late, so I'm happy with the progress there. So when I come back, I will play with that little bit there, and I will play with that bit across there. I will then clean up where the spot welds were holding the cab rear wall on, and then I think I'll start. I might throw a little bit of paint in here and there, but after that I think I'll start putting this all back together. Nice work. Time to lay down. This has had plenty of time to cool down now, like 4 days. So what I can tell you is that it has absolutely no warping or distortion because it was all clecoed in place. I'm just going to give the welds a bit of a grind up. But it's all pretty good. What more can I say? Giving that a bit of a dress up on the welds. Not trying to make it too beautiful, but looks pretty good. I will, once I crack the welder out again, I'll just go through and I might just run a bit more weld on a few areas here. I think it's fine, but I've got it exposed. I might as well just run a bead along the back there. What I'm going to do now is try and beat that shape into it. And that's just the bit that ducks into the corner of the cab. And I'm probably just in the first place going to try and just use that as a bit of a shaping anvil. See how that goes? I'll just beat down on it, try and form some sort of shape. Okay, I'm very happy with that. So that won't look like a pimple on a pig's bum later. Weld it in, all be good. So I think I'm nearly pretty close to start actually welding this piece in to continue on. So we've got some paint in there. It's roughly painted on, but that's all it really needs. Ground a bit back from here. It's not a fabulous paint job, it's just for protection. And then we've got the panel here ready to go back on. As I said, ran a few beads on the underside, just give it a bit more strength. And we've got some holes drilled in it, ready for some plug welds. Cut a bit of the floor away, cut it across, cut it away here and over here. Ended up cutting it through a bit further there. Did cut into the brace a little bit under there, so I'll have to weld that up. But otherwise, that panel is pretty much ready to be welded in. So, need to fabricate a piece across the back there, and as I've said, clean up the spot welds off the back of the cab and all that sort of stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, this piece is ready to go. So that'll be the next thing that we do. Very happy with the way it's come up. Quick coat of primer just to protect the underside. Before I spot weld it in, I'm going to have to take off a bit of the paint here, a bit here, and a bit around the edges, because that's where I need to put some plug welds on. But other than that, that paint will stay there and it'll give it good protection. Remember, I sanded it or keyed it earlier. That'll help that paint stick better. That's all I used. Well, that's about all we're going to do on this particular episode of that floor section, but you can be sure that we're going to come back very soon and we're going to continue on with this. Until next time, we'll come back to the GMC then. Well, obviously there's still more to do on Clive. There's still plenty more to do, which I guess from a point of view of videos means there's plenty more content. So hang around, stay tuned, and you'll see us do more on Clive. Obviously, we didn't get finished inside what we started, but you know what? There's still plenty of time in life. Join me next time. We'll work more on Clive, the GMC, and hopefully get some of that stuff stitched up. Be safe, enjoy life. See you on the next one.